Joining me right now is unbeaten featherweight prospect Daniel Jones. What's going on, Daniel?
Not much, just a weekend, just a rest day, so yeah, just taking it easy.
What do you usually do on a rest day during training camp?
Very little sleep, just recovery, stretch. I have a hypervolt that I use all the time.
A boxing background. Is that which combat sport you started with?
No, I started with MMA. I had some boxing fights, but that was already like when I already had quite a few fights just in between, when it was just like a quiet period.
Has like you said, you started with MMA. What age was that?
I would have been about 20. So like when I first started, I started doing just submission grappling, and then I wanted to do MMA, but I didn't start straight away. I just did a few submission grappling competitions and things like that, just to get some experience. And I started doing MMA, and then just started with amateur fights, and then progressed from there, just a natural progression.
Which aspect of MMA has come easiest for you?
Wrestling would have been the easiest. When I was younger, I used to play football and stuff. So I always played sports when I was younger. So, and I have a twin brother, so we used to fight anyway, like growing up. So that probably came the most natural.
Yeah, how helpful was that to have a twin brother, someone that is just like you, being able to fight each other every day?
It's ideal because you ideally want the same training partner, like consistency, and to have someone consistent is the best. And if like you're very similar skill level, you're just going to improve at the same rate. That's ideally what you want. Ideal scenario. You want like someone that's very similar to the division you're in, and then it's going to push you. And the competitiveness, like you're not going to get the same competitiveness unless you had like brothers. But if you had twins, it'd be even more competitive. Just like the more similar you are to someone, the more competitive you're going to be.
South City Combat Sports Academy. Talk about the team you work with there in Perth.
Yeah, so you got South City boxing next door to South City Combat Sports Academy. So one's a boxing gym. It's been around for 30 years. And then you've got South City Combat Sports, which is next door to it, which is just MMA, wrestling, and nogi. And Ramel Luistro is the head coach there. And yeah, you got it's a good gym, like a good facility. I've been around to a few gyms here, but this would probably be the best place that I've been to, as in like convenience, quality of training, and consistency, like consistent training and consistent training partners and good schedule.
Speaking of training partners, it seems like you have a couple guys on your team getting ready with you for Eternal 41. Am I right?
Yeah, there's a few guys, yeah. So there's me, Quillen, some other guys having their first fight, like Ernest. Bevan's having his second fight. And you've got Kong's having his first fight. And that's it from that gym. And you've got some other guys that are still sort of associated with, not with that gym, but still training together, like Cody Haddon, etc.
What has the environment been like at the training sessions with all those guys hungry to get in the cage?
It's good, yeah, it's competitive. Like, my brother's still my main training partner, though, because that's just another level of competitiveness. So, but it's good to have a team environment. Before, like, I've been around to multiple gyms, so it's really just been like, always sort of been on your own, training, preparing for fights. You had certain coaches and stuff, but I didn't really have like a team as such. People always ask about like if they want to fight and things like that, they need like a push, but a lot of the time you're never going to have that push. You need to be self-motivated yourself if you want to be successful, and to have a team just makes it easier, and then just feed off the rest of the energy.
Are there any other places that you're training currently?
Mainly there. So yes, so boxing next door. And then South City. So South City next door to it, and then South City Combat Sports, which is the MMA room. I've been around to other places, nothing really for this training camp, but I've been like to quite a few gyms in the past. Like I was training at like Karinga before we opened that gym. I was going training at Karinga, just for like wrestling and sparring with Cody, etc. I've been to other gyms. I've been like to Strike with Dave Johnson for Nogi, and like through the course since I've been training, I've been to most gyms, yeah, just around everywhere. But this is the best fit at the moment and the most consistent. And consistency where the training sessions is a good intensity, but injuries are low because it's longevity, you know what I mean? It's not like short-term intensity. It's a long game. It's not a short game. It's not a sprint.
Let's talk about your last fight. You got a TKO finish in the first round. Talk me through that fight and the finish.
Yeah, so I was going to fight Rodolfo for that fight initially, and then he pulled out, so I got a late replacement, which was Mark Familiari. Not a hard fight, you know what I mean, but southpaw as well, so it would have been, if I fought Rodolfo on that night, it would have been the same result, like the same sort of shots I would have finished it with, so it was good for him taking the fight, but yeah, it wasn't going to go long. It was just me being just calculated and just patient, because I knew what I was going to catch him. It was just a matter of just timing him. No point coming out, rushing, and yeah, just fighting like an idiot. Just trying to fight experienced and composed.
You mentioned that Rodolfo was your original opponent, and
Yeah,
that
for that
fight
show.
was canceled. What happened
Yeah.
exactly in that situation?
Well, what got told to me is, so if he wants to fight in WA, he's from Melbourne, so the Victorian Athletic Commission has to pass him to come here, but because he fought in Adelaide on Diamondback, which was like can't remember how many weeks it was before that. It might have been 4 weeks or something like that, or might have been longer, 6 weeks. But because he didn't get knocked out, he didn't get stiffened, but he got like TKO'd. So they normally don't want you to be active for a while, and they wouldn't pass him. But he still went to a doctor and got cleared, but the commission didn't want to pass him for that time period.
After going to the judges in your first 4 pro fights, you have TKO'd the last 2 opponents. What has changed in you?
More patient, but I mean, like, it's always sort of been there. But just you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't really have the confidence and believe it, belief's a real powerful tool. You know, and if you believe something, it becomes reality. So it's just believing in your skills, and then you know if you touch someone, you have power. You're going to put them down. So it's just that. Before my other fights, I wasn't so much trying to finish fights, because there's no substitute for ring time. You know what I mean? You're not going to get that anywhere else. So like, the more cage experience you're going to get, the better. Like, if you've done, like, let's say 5 fights, 3-5, so you've done 15, 30, 45, 60, so you've got 75 minutes of ring time. You've got someone else that's like flooring guys in the first round. He doesn't even have 5 minutes of cage experience. When he can't land that shot, he doesn't have that experience. He hasn't seen everything. When you fight guys that are more experienced, they've seen everything. They're not idiots. You know what I mean? And it's just being efficient with your energy. Everyone gets tired. It's based on efficiency.
Well, the promotion put this fight together again for Eternal 41.
Yeah.
Marques, what are your thoughts of him as an opponent?
He's a good opponent. It's the best opponent I'm going to get in Australia as far as resume and rankings and what he's done. Besides that, after this fight, I'm not really sure what prospects there's going to be, or where I would be on the rankings, etc. I just want to keep consistent and just be able to do this as a career, you know what I mean? As in, what it already is a career, but to be is a priority, but to be able to make for the time investment to get that return, you know what I mean?
What type of challenges does Rodolfo pose for you?
He's a southpaw, so southpaw is a little bit different, you know what I mean? Fight's completely different, but last fight was a southpaw, and I was training for southpaws before that. He has a certain style. I mean, like, I would say a little bit of pressure, like a pressure fighter, somewhat, but then he's not a pressure fighter. He has problems with power punches, like anyone that has decent power. And I think he's a bit chinny from so many fights. But he's good. He's like good grappler. Wrestling is not too bad, etc. And he's fairly fit. He's not really getting gassed. And he's fought everywhere. He's fought internationally as well. So it's probably the best scout that you're going to get on a resume in this division in Australia.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. A win over Marques is huge. What do you prove to yourself in your young career with that type of win?
Just a natural progression. Before this fight, I think the hardest fight I would have had was Jordan Cameron, and it's a shame that Jordan Cameron's not fighting anymore, because I think he would be one of the better guys in Australia. He hasn't been active since 2017, but he beats, if I pull up the rankings, he beats everyone on that list. You know what I mean? He's good. So that was a good test too. I could have fought that fight a lot smarter, but that sort of pressure fight is good to know that you can push that pace, you know what I mean? And when it's like a battle of wills, you're going to break people. So who's going to be the first to break? And that's a good quality to have.
Are you looking to make a run at the title this year, or are you content building your name and getting the experience?
Well, just experience in fights. Title would be good, but it's not be all end all. You know what I mean? Guys sort of get titles and sitting on. You know what I mean? You got Josh Coolabau, who's got the Hex title, hasn't defended it since 2017. like mid-year. That's just sort of sitting stagnant. You've got other belts that are just sort of sitting stagnant. They just sort of drift off, you know what I mean? Eternal, that belt's been stagnant for a while as well. I mean, I could fight. I could take that belt. To be honest, anyone that fights for that title, they're going to take it. Like, as this year as opposed to 2-3 years ago, the level is completely different. You can watch like amateur fights now, guys are a lot better. You know what I mean? You're not seeing really any spastics around there. Everyone's pretty well rounded. Probably their weakest thing's wrestling. The weakest wrestling, and probably like composure striking. Like they can throw strikes, but they've got poor striking defense where they get clipped. But yes, it's getting better. You can see it if you watch like UFC and stuff. Like on the Australian scene, like the levels increased a lot. Like, to be honest, you can train here. You wouldn't need to go internationally anymore. You're going to get just as good training here because it's just growing. You know, and everyone's getting on that level.
Is there anybody on your hit list for this year? Like someone you want to face as a featherweight? Because there's a lot of good featherweights out there in Australia.
Yeah. If I look at I did have a list actually. Like, I don't have it here. I did have a list of names and things like that, but normally just pop the rankings and just chase it up, like where I'm ranked, and follow it up. Because if you work out the algorithms, because, you know what I mean, you could be the best in the division. The best guys in the division, they're not ranked. I don't think they're even ranked in the top 10 at the moment. You know what I mean? A lot of those guys have just been fighting bums. So I think guys between 10 and 20 at the moment, if you're looking at rankings, they're the best, but they just haven't had the fights, etc. here. But not particularly names, just whatever's going to build my resume, because I can look like I fight good, but at the end of the day, it's what's on paper. Someone that doesn't know me, they're going to pull up, you know what I mean, a database, and that's what's going to matter, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter about word of mouth. So in that aspect, that's important.
All right. March 2nd, Eternal MMA 41. Daniel Jones faces Rodolfo Marques in Perth. Thank you, Daniel, for your time, and good luck on your fight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.